Honda has been on a value kick lately, focusing on delivering affordable motorcycles in all categories and offering some impressive deals on some of their new bikes. They started by selling the Navi, the least expensive motorcycle sold in North America by a major manufacturer, and the XR150L, the least expensive full-size bike sold in North America. And this year they followed that up by bringing 3 models to the North American market that have been available elsewhere and pricing them aggressively in order to undercut the competition in their respective categories. Both the Hornet 750 and the Hornet 1000 SP are the most affordable bikes in their niches, and I've reviewed both on this channel. Check out those videos in the top right corner. But now the NT1100 is providing value in the sport touring segment, and that bike also undercuts its competition on price and, one could argue, features. And this fanatical commitment to quality and value has worked for Honda, as for the fiscal year ending in March 2025, Honda sold, and hold on to your socks for these figures, over 20 million motorcycles, which accounts for 40% of global new motorcycle sales. You gotta be doing something right to lay down those numbers. So is the new to America NT1100 a winner, and will it dominate the sport touring market the way Honda crushes the overall global two-wheeled market? Stay tuned, and if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and sharing it with friends. If there's one word to use in defining the NT1100, it would be refined. The bike is based on the Africa Twin 1100, which was last updated in 2020, and the NT has been in production for 3 years before finally arriving on North American shores, so hopefully any new model bugs have been addressed by now. The bike felt instantly familiar to me because it's largely based on the Africa Twin platform, and I've ridden plenty of Africa Twins. The NT has the same engine, frame, drivetrain, display, and similar electronics, and doesn't ride much differently than the Africa Twin Adventure Sports I reviewed last year. Check out that video in the top right corner. The engine is a 1084cc 270-degree parallel twin, which puts out 101 horsepower and 82 pound-feet of torque. This motor doesn't quite have the high revving rush to redline like a Yamaha Tracer 9 Inline 3, but instead has more power in the middle of the rev range, where riders will spend most of their time on the road. There's plenty of power on tap and it comes on strong, but because the torque curve is so linear, it doesn't blow your hair back, so to speak. Again, the word refined comes to mind with this bike, where you can glance down at the speedo when you're riding and surprise yourself with how fast you are going. The speed on this machine is so undramatic it can catch you out. And it sounds pretty awesome too. The NT has rider modes, Tour, Urban, and Rain, which adjust the aggressiveness of power delivery, traction control, and engine braking, plus 2 user modes in which you can dial those in for yourself. The ABS and traction control are lean sensitive, which gives the rider an extra cushion of safety. The automatic DCT version of the bike also has Sport mode, which holds on to the gears much longer than the regular drive mode, as well as a manual function in which you can switch gears up and down with buttons. The buttons can be used to override the drive and sport modes for a manual shift if you feel the DCT is slow in getting to the next gear. The shifts are smooth, lightning fast, and don't upset the motorcycle in turns when leaned over. I have long said that 100 horsepower was plenty for all but the biggest motorcycles, and the NT1100 is a good illustration of that. It doesn't have the frantic rush of acceleration that the 150 plus horsepower bikes have, but it can rip a quick pass on a 2-lane without issues. The United States gets Honda's dual clutch automatic transmission only, while Canadians get a choice between the DCT or a manual 6-speed. Being an old dog, I prefer the manual everywhere except in stop-and-go traffic because I use the clutch to modulate speed, especially in slower parking lot situations. But the DCT is very familiar to me by now because I've tested so many Hondas with this setup, and if you are looking for slow speed control, you can drag the rear brake on this thing in slow speed maneuvers. And quite frankly, if you ride in the city a lot and spend a lot of time sitting in traffic or at lights, the DCT is preferable to riding the clutch all the time. This is not an overly heavy motorcycle, with a manual version weighing 238 kilograms or 524 pounds and the DCT tipping the scales at 248 kilograms or 547 pounds, but its chief rival, the Yamaha Tracer 9, is still significantly lighter and quicker handling. The Honda feels solid on the highway in various wind conditions while still retaining nimble handling in the bends. And, as with engine performance, makes high speeds feel undramatic. The suspension is relatively simple with 5.9 inches or 175 millimeters of travel front and back. Both ends are adjustable for preload only, with electronically adjustable suspension not offered in North America as it is in Europe. The ride is plush and bumps are barely noticeable, but the inverted fork does dive under hard braking. The shock performed well, and other than the fork being a bit soft, I didn't have any issues with the suspension. The bike is capable of eating up highway miles and railing turns on a twisty road equally well, and while it's more tourer than sport, can genuinely surprise you when you glance down at the speedo in a turn. It feels slower than it is. The Africa Twin frame is solid and feels stiff and precise while the bike is on the side of the tire. Honda certainly knows how to make a motorcycle handle well, and the NT1100 is easy to ride fast. A sport tourer needs to feel comfortable, and this is one of the NT's strengths. The weather protection is outstanding with really good coverage as the bodywork protects you from the elements. I rode this bike through a downpour and managed to stay reasonably dry. I'd like the windshield just a tad higher as some bugs hit my helmet, but that's a minor concern and is easily fixable. The windscreen is 5-way adjustable with one hand no less and can be raised or lowered on the fly. The big NT also has 5-way adjustable heated grips, though they have to be operated with 2 function buttons through a menu. Give me a dedicated button any day for heated grips, thank you very much. Seating position is roomy and upright with lots of space for my legs. At 6 feet tall or 182 centimeters, I found it pretty comfy. The seat is firm and well-shaped, and it was hours of riding before my butt started falling asleep. And when it did, getting up out of the saddle and standing was a cinch since the NT1100 is based on an adventure bike. Seat height is 32.3 inches or 820 millimeters, which doesn't sound high, but the width of the bike made it somewhat tall for my wife, who is 5'7" and has a 30-inch inseam. If you're shorter than that and are not a very experienced and confident rider, the seat may be a bit tall for you. The gas tank on the NT carries 5.4 gallons or 20.4 liters and should get you about 400 kilometers or 250 miles of riding, as long as you're not being a fool with the throttle or running it in sport mode all the time in the twisties. My bike was also equipped with panniers and a top box, with the combined carrying volume being close to that of the Goldwing, maybe a bit more. Additionally, the top box, which can swallow 2 full-face helmets by the way, was equipped with a nice passenger backrest, so this motorcycle is not too far off the comfort and 2-up convenience of the Goldwing while being less expensive and better handling. Additionally, this NT had an extra mini tank bag, which is good for carrying your wallet, documents, and whatever else you need to keep handy. You can also pop your phone into the top of this bag and keep it dry and charging even in a downpour. The whole thing is waterproof, clips into some straps, and has 2 magnetic wings which keep it securely attached to the steel tank. Now, these types of bikes are definitely sought after for their function and not for the way they look, but nevertheless, looks still count, even in this category. And I have to say, the looks of the NT, for me at least, are a miss. That big bulbous front end and those swooshy headlights are giving me maxi scooter vibes. So yes, the trade-off for awesome weather protection is a bulky looking motorcycle. Would you be willing to give up some of that coverage to have a more svelte bike? I'll leave that up to you, because that will be determined by your tastes and the weather in the place where you ride. Perhaps you will want that airflow, in which case the windscreen can go pretty low on the NT. However, in its highest position, it looks a little tacked on, like it's not quite integrated into the rest of the bike. So the NT1100 is not exactly a looker, in my opinion anyways, but from the saddle that doesn't matter that much. It is a highly competent and extremely refined touring bike capable of eating up miles and hammering a twisty road. Prices start at $11,900 US or $17,600 Canadian dollars standard and $18,600 DCT. But that Canadian figure includes PDI and destination charges. These prices slightly undercut the NT's chief rival, the Yamaha Tracer 9, which doesn't come with heated grips, so Honda is definitely trying to corner the value market. So to sum up, the NT1100 is a refined, well-equipped, and competitively priced sport tourer which seems like it's going slower than some of the bikes it competes with until you look at the speedometer and are shocked by how undramatic extreme speeds feel on it. This is an extremely competent motorcycle which has been around long enough to assure us that it won't have any unexpected mechanical gremlins. Of course not, it's a Honda. I don't know if it will dominate sales, but I think it will build a sizable following. Of course it will, it's a Honda. It's not the greatest looking bike in the world, but it is a great value, and let's face it, looks matter less in this category. This bike reminds me of 20 years ago when the Honda ST1300 was the more comfortable sport tourer and the Yamaha FJR 1300 was the sportier one. And today, the Honda NT1100 is the more comfortable sport tourer while the Yamaha Tracer 9 is the sportier one. Things don't change apparently. I like the NT1100. It is a comfy place to munch miles and is sporty enough to keep you entertained. Its greatest rival might actually be the bike it is based on, the Africa Twin Adventure Sports. Maybe there's a comparison idea there. Stay tuned for that video. But what do you think of this motorcycle? What do you consider your perfect sport tourer? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Ride safe, check out some of these other videos that may be of interest to you, and may the spokes be with you.